You don't notice it when it happens. That's the first trick. Manipulation doesn't arrive with a flashing sign, a villain monologue, or the dramatic tension of a movie scene. It happens quietly, inside the space between what you think you see and what your emotions decide for you. And the moment it begins, you're already behind. Because the first move of dark psychology is never about what they do. It's about what you fail to notice. You walk into a room, and before you've said a single word, someone already has an advantage. They've read the micro-tensions in your face, the stiffness in your shoulders, the subtle crack in your voice when you greet them. They've mapped your emotional openings before you even know you revealed them. And the strangest part? You help them do it every time. This is the moment Machiavelli would raise an eyebrow, tilt his head just slightly, and whisper, not as a prophet, not as a moral judge, but as a tactician. People show their vulnerabilities long before they protect them. And he's right, because the truth is uncomfortable. You think manipulation starts when someone acts. But it begins the moment someone observes. You don't live in a world of actions. You live in a world of perceptions, especially others' perceptions of you. Dark psychology's first move, its opening strike, isn't a threat, a lie, or a trap. It's a calculation, a measurement of who you are emotionally before you even realize someone is measuring. They watch how fast you speak, how long you make eye contact, where your attention drifts, which phrases make your breath deepen or your posture shrink. Every one of these signals reveals something. Where you are confident, where you are afraid, where you will resist, where you will comply. And the terrifying part? This happens instantly. Humans are wired to reveal themselves emotionally. Your brain broadcasts signals faster than you can consciously regulate them. Your face leaks the truth. Your tone leaks the truth. Your hesitation leaks the truth. People don't need special training to sense it. Some do it instinctively. Others do it deliberately. A few, those who understand dark psychology, do it strategically. But all of them share the same advantage. They act based on the version of you that you didn't know you were showing. Machiavelli would say, "He who sees first controls the field." And emotional control is nothing more than controlling the field, your field, before you even recognize you're in a psychological game. But here's the cruel twist. Most people believe manipulation begins with words, with persuasion, with influence tactics, with deception. No, words come later. Words are the finish. The real move, the winning move, happened long before the conversation even began. Because the first move of manipulation is always perception. Not their perception of reality, but their perception of you. You can't defend yourself against what you don't know you're projecting. And that's why people fall into emotional traps again and again. They try to guard their words, guard their actions, guard their choices, while leaving the most valuable entry point unprotected: their emotional transparency. Every manipulator starts with the same question. What does this person need emotionally? Because if they know what you need, they know how to move you. Do you crave approval? They'll offer validation. Do you fear being misunderstood? They'll become your safe listener. Do you hate conflict? They'll present themselves as harmony. Do you seek connection? They'll mirror your soul until it feels like destiny. Do you want to be respected? They'll flatter your intelligence just enough to disarm you. Their first move is not aggression, it's alignment. Perfect alignment. You think you've found someone who understands you. But in reality, you've found someone who has read you. This is why people get blindsided. Manipulation rarely looks like force. At first, it looks like empathy, attunement, connection, understanding. But there's nothing noble about it. It's reconnaissance. In the shadows of this psychological battlefield, Machiavelli isn't a villain. He's an observer, cold, analytical, unblinking. He would watch two people interact and say something brutally simple. People reveal themselves quickest to those they want to impress. And he knows you do this. You lean in. You open up. You soften. You show small pieces of your internal world because you crave being seen. But the ones who understand dark psychology, they don't soften with you. They absorb. They learn. They evaluate. They predict. And once they know what you feel, what you need, what you fear, they know how to move you. You think you're choosing freely, but you're walking along a path they paved for you before you ever realized a path existed. That's the invisible opening strike. Dark psychology doesn't begin with manipulation. It begins with mapping. Mapping your emotional terrain so precisely that every next step becomes predictable. This is the part people ignore. This is why people lose. Not because they're weak, but because they're unaware. You've been taught your whole life to protect your words. But no one ever told you to protect your emotional signals. And that, right there, is where it all begins. The first move is already over. And you didn't even see it happen. Before someone manipulates you, they read you. Not casually, not accidentally, but with the precision of someone scanning a map before a war. People imagine reading someone is mystical, like intuition or mind reading. But it's not. It's mechanics, pattern recognition, psychological physics. And once you see the mechanics, you understand why dark psychology is so effective and so dangerous. Because everything you reveal, even without knowing, becomes leverage. Machiavelli knew this long before modern psychology existed. He studied human nature not with kindness, but with clarity. His writings weren't about cruelty, they were about prediction. He'd watch a person walk into a room, glance at their posture, their pace, their eyes, and he could already tell who they feared, who they respected, and who they believed themselves superior to. Today, science explains what Machiavelli observed centuries ago. But the manipulator doesn't need science. They only need attention. And here are the mechanics they use, the ones you never notice. 1. They read your baselines. Every person has a default emotional resting state. How you talk, how fast you blink, where your shoulders sit, how you breathe when you're comfortable. A manipulator's first task is simple. Figure out what normal looks like for you. Once they know your baseline, every deviation becomes a signal. A faster blink equals stress. Raised shoulders equals anxiety. Shorter sentences equals fear. A longer pauses equals uncertainty. A looking down equals internal conflict. These tiny cues tell them when to push, when to pause, when to sympathize, when to dominate. You barely notice your own shifts. They notice all of them. Machiavelli's version would be, study a man at rest, and you can command him in motion. 2. They test you with microprobes. No manipulator begins with a big move. The first tests are small, microscopic. A tiny disagreement, a playful insult, a delayed response, a mild social risk. They're watching how you react, not what you say. Do you defend yourself? Do you stay polite even when uncomfortable? Do you explain yourself too quickly? Do you give emotional access too easily? These microprobes reveal your boundaries, or your lack of them. If you don't react, they escalate. If you do react, they adapt. You think the moment is casual. For them, it is data. 3. They mirror your internal state. This is one of the most dangerous manipulative tools, because it feels like connection. But it's not connection, it's mimicry. If you talk fast, they talk fast. If you lean in, they lean in. If you express worry, they soften their voice. You interpret this as compatibility. They intend it as synchronization. Mirroring lowers your social defenses. You feel seen. You feel understood. But what you're actually experiencing is your own emotional frequency played back to you. Machiavelli would say, the easiest way to lead a man is to walk beside him until he thinks the path is his. 4. They identify your emotional anchors. Everyone has emotional triggers, anchors that shape their decisions. The need to be liked, the fear of being rejected, the craving for certainty, the desire to feel unique, the insecurity of being misunderstood, the longing to be admired, the fear of conflict, the need to feel in control. A manipulator listens for these without you knowing. When your voice softens on a topic, they take note. When your eyes brighten at praise, they take note. When your posture shrinks at criticism, they take note. By the time you finish a conversation, they often know more about your emotional blueprint than you do. 5. They shape the narrative frame. Humans rarely respond to reality. They respond to the frame around reality. And manipulators are experts at shaping the frame. They decide what the topic means, what the stakes are, who is at fault, who holds the power, what behavior is reasonable, what behavior makes you feel guilty. Once they control the frame, they control your responses. For example, instead of arguing facts, they shift the frame. From, was this fair? To, why are you overreacting? From, did they hurt you? To, you're being too sensitive. From, what do you want? To, why can't you be more understanding? It's not logic. It's framing. And framing beats logic every time. 6. They exploit your predictability. The greatest misconception is thinking manipulative people are unpredictable. They're not. You are predictable. And they use your predictability against you. If you always avoid conflict, they push during conflict. If you always seek harmony, they offer it strategically. If you always explain yourself, they demand explanations. If you always try to fix things, they break things. You operate on emotional autopilot. They operate on your autopilot. Machiavelli observed this with brutal clarity. A man who cannot master himself will always reveal where he may be mastered. That is the heart of dark psychology. Not deception, not coercion, but design. They design situations around your emotional defaults. And by the time you sense something is off, you're already inside a structure they built. 7. They hide their intent behind neutrality. The most manipulative person in the room is rarely the loudest. They're the quiet one, the calm one, the one who watches. Emotional neutrality makes others reveal themselves. People fill silence with truth. People respond to calm with vulnerability. People assume stillness equals safety. It doesn't. It equals observation. This is the Machiavellian gaze, not moral, not emotional, just analytical. They watch you the same way a strategist watches a battlefield. Not with hatred, not with affection, but with evaluation. Your emotions speak. They listen. And listening is the first form of power. You may think all of this sounds paranoid, but the truth is, you have already met people who do this. Some consciously, some instinctively, some accidentally. But all of them demonstrate the same law. The one who reads first controls first. And that is the core mechanic of social influence. The game starts before the game even begins. There is a moment, quiet, subtle, unsettling, when you finally realize the truth. You were never losing because people were smarter. You were losing because people were paying attention while you were looking away. For most of your life, you were emotionally transparent. Not weak, transparent. You revealed everything without knowing you were doing it. And others, knowingly or not, shaped you through what you revealed. But awakening begins with a shift so small you barely feel it. You start watching back. This is the threshold where dark psychology stops being a threat and starts becoming clarity. Where you stop stumbling through emotional interactions like a blind traveler and begin seeing the architecture beneath every conversation, every tone shift, every silence. It doesn't turn you into a manipulator. It turns you into someone who is no longer easy to move. Machiavelli would stand beside you here, not as a coach, not as a moral compass, but as a man handing you a lens. Not a sword, not armor, a lens. Because the moment you can see the code, it stops controlling you. 1. The moment you stop reacting automatically. Manipulators thrive on your autopilot responses. Your instinct to explain yourself. Your instinct to justify. Your instinct to smooth tension. Your instinct to prove your good intentions. The awakening begins when you interrupt your own reflex. Someone accuses you unfairly. Instead of rushing to defend yourself, you pause. Someone demands emotional reassurance. Instead of giving it instantly, you observe their timing. Someone frames you as the problem. Instead of absorbing their narrative, you examine the frame itself. This pause, this microsecond of awareness, is the firewall. You have no idea how powerful this is. Because manipulation collapses when you stop playing your assigned emotional role. The moment you pause, you begin to see the strategy behind the moment. 2. You stop projecting purity onto others. One of the most dangerous illusions is assuming everyone lives with the same intentions as you. That they seek harmony when you seek harmony. That they are honest when you are honest. That they argue to understand, not to dominate. But awakening means accepting the truth. Not everyone plays the social game with the same rules. Some play to connect. Some play to control. Some play to win. You don't have to judge them. You only have to recognize their playstyle. Machiavelli would say, "The man who assumes virtue in others blinds himself to their ambitions." Awakening is the removal of that blindness. 3. You begin to see people's emotional signatures. Every person carries a predictable emotional rhythm. Some dominate by talking more. Some dominate by talking less. Some disarm by kindness. Some manipulate by vulnerability. Some control through guilt. Some influence through admiration. Some lead through calm. Some intimidate through silence. When you awaken, you stop taking these rhythms personally. You start seeing them as strategies, not truths about you. Suddenly, someone's cold tone doesn't make you shrink. Someone's charm doesn't hypnotize you. Someone's guilt trip doesn't hook into your conscience. You see the move as a move. And once you see the move, it loses its force. 4. You stop revealing what people haven't earned. The old version of you gave emotional access without caution. You shared your fears with people who didn't deserve them. You offered loyalty to people who hadn't proven theirs. You gave explanations to people who never explained themselves. You revealed vulnerabilities to people who used them as leverage. Awakening means adopting a new rule. Access is earned, not assumed. You speak slower. You reveal less. You observe more. And strangely, people start treating you differently. Not because you became cold, but because you stopped bleeding information. Machiavelli would whisper here. What is hidden cannot be used against you. 5. You see the frame before you step inside it. This is one of the highest levels of awareness. Someone tries to guilt you? You instantly recognize guilt as a framing device. Someone tries to charm you? You see the manipulation embedded in the timing. Someone tries to escalate conflict? You see the emotional purpose behind it. Someone tries to make you prove something? You identify it as an anchoring tactic. You're no longer reacting inside their frame. You're standing outside of it, analyzing it, choosing whether to accept it or reject it entirely. This is when people stop being able to pull you emotionally, because you're not inside the frame they built. You're watching the frame from above. 6. You switch from emotional prey to emotional observer. Most people move through the world being observed. Few people move through the world observing. When you awaken, you shift roles. You start seeing emotional patterns in real time. You see how often people betray themselves with micro cues. You see which emotions drive their choices. You see what they need more than what they say. You're not reading minds, you're reading leaks. And everyone leaks. This is the part that surprises you the most. The world becomes quieter. You're less reactive, less startled, less confused. Because you understand the psychological physics underneath social life. The chaos turns into structure. The unpredictability becomes predictable. The manipulative becomes obvious. 7. You realize the strongest power is emotional detachment. Not coldness. Not apathy. Not ignoring people. Emotional detachment simply means one thing. Your emotions respond to you, not to them. Someone calls you selfish. You don't flinch. You check the context. Someone pulls away. You don't chase. You check the pattern. Someone provokes you. You don't explode. You check their motive. You don't let their emotions become your assignment. This is where manipulation dies, quietly without a fight. A manipulator cannot move a person who does not respond on command. Machiavelli would nod here, not proudly but knowingly. The sovereign is the one who rules his inner state. And that is the truth most people never learn. 8. You become conscious of the code, finally. Dark psychology is not evil by default. It's awareness. It's understanding. It's the ability to see the mechanics that were always there. Once you see the code, the world doesn't become darker. It becomes clearer. You stop being naive. You stop being reactive. You stop being predictable. You start choosing your responses. You start controlling your frame. You start shaping your emotional presence. You become someone who is not easily manipulated, because you don't walk into interactions blind anymore. The awakening is simple, but profound. They can only move you instantly when you move unconsciously. Now you're conscious. Now you see the first move before they make it. And the moment you see it, it stops working.